Welcome back to our news bulletin. The US has recorded its lowest daily death toll from the coronavirus in 3 weeks, with 1,258 fatalities in the past 24 hours. The total number of deaths in the country has surged past 51,000. Worldwide, the virus has killed over 195,000 people and infected almost 2.8 million so far. Further details in this report.
The coronavirus pandemic continues to take thousands of lives daily as under economic pressure, governments across the world consider easing the restrictions. In the US, every 1 in 6 workers are out of the job, which has forced several states to take tentative steps and reopening businesses despite concerns. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump left the daily media briefing without taking any questions over criticism on suggesting disinfectants as a treatment. Trump said he was being sarcastic when he raised the possibility of injecting disinfectants inside people's bodies to fight coronavirus.
Because when they say that something will last 3 or 4 hours or 6 hours, but if the sun is out or if they use disinfectant, it goes away in less than a minute. Did you hear about this yesterday? But I was asking a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside. But it does kill it, and it would kill it on the hands, and that would make things much better.
The Czech Republic has eased lockdown restrictions after a drop in new cases sparked optimism. Belgium has also announced a detailed plan to gradually lift country's COVID-19 restrictions. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization said the agency is teaming up with countries and partners to accelerate work on drugs and a vaccine. Joining hands with the WHO, Germany said all new vaccines, diagnostics, and treatments must be made equally available to everyone globally.
I agree with the UN Secretary General that a vaccine is a global common good, and producing it and then sharing it around the world. It would be a large, powerful effort when we get this vaccine. So we are supporting with a full efforts the conference on May 4th.
In the meantime, Sri Lanka has reimposed a countrywide 24-hour curfew after a surge in the number of infections.
The coronavirus death toll in Pakistan has reached 253 after 16 people died in the last 24 hours. The Health Ministry reported 785 infection cases in the last 24 hours, bringing the total to nearly 12,000. The ministry said 2,755 patients have recovered so far across the country. It said the province of Punjab leads in the number of cases, with over 5,000 infections. The ministry said more than 138,000 tests have been conducted countrywide, with 6,780 taken yesterday. Meanwhile, Chinese ambassador in Pakistan, Yao Jing, said Beijing is standing with Islamabad amid the pandemic. In a statement, Jing said Beijing has sent medical equipment, doctors' teams, and safety goods for Pakistanis. Indian forces have martyred another 3 youths in the Pulwama district of occupied Kashmir. Police said the Kashmiris were killed during a cordon search operation in the Avantipora city of the district. The occupation forces also killed 2 civilians in the Kulgam district yesterday and 4 in Shopian districts on Wednesday. Total 9 Kashmiris have been martyred this week. Indian troops have killed 96 Kashmiris, including 3 women, during the ongoing 8-month-long siege in the valley. The occupied territory is reeling under New Delhi's crushing curfew and communications blackout for the past 265 days. The Taliban say they are still committed to Doha peace deal despite hindrances created by the Afghan government. In a statement, the group said the Kabul administration has demanded ceasefire despite the continuation of attacks against them. The Taliban said under the deal, a ceasefire will be implemented only if after prisoners' release and the start of intra-Afghan talks. The group said it believes the sole path towards a resolution is to implement the agreement as sequenced phase by phase. The Taliban statement comes after US Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad echoed NATO's call for peace in Afghanistan. Khalilzad said the bloc statement focused on violence reduction, end of a political feud, and fight against COVID-19. The envoy asked the Taliban and the Afghan government to move more quickly on the release of prisoners. In Libya, Khalifa Haftar's forces have killed 3 civilians in an attack in Tripoli on the first day of the holy month of Ramadan. A spokesman for the UN-backed government said the rocket attack on a civilian settlement in the Anzar region left 3 others wounded. Last week, government forces launched a military operation to recapture Ferhona. The town is Haftar's last major stronghold in the area surrounding Tripoli. Government forces have been under attack by the warlord's militia since April 2019, with over 1,000 killed in the violence. The Libyan government launched Operation Peace Storm on March 26th to counter attacks on the capital. Turkey says it has killed 20 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in northern Syria. The Defense Ministry says the fighters were killed while trying to infiltrate Operation Peace Spring Zone across Turkey's southern border. The ministry said it will not stop the operations against militants in the region. Yesterday, Turkish forces killed 8 PKK fighters in airstrikes in northern Iraq. Since 2016, Turkey has launched a trio of operations across its border into northern Syria. Ankara holds the fighter group responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year terror campaign. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has called his armed forces to seek regional stability while maintaining vigilance in the region. President's statement comes amid an escalating war of words with the U.S. State media quoted Rouhani as saying Tehran must maintain an authoritative presence in the Gulf region. On Thursday, head of Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard said Tehran would destroy U.S. warships if its security is threatened in the Gulf. This came a day after President Donald Trump warned Tehran over harassment of U.S. vessels. Meanwhile, the UK expressed concern over Iran's launch of a military satellite using ballistic missile technology. A British Foreign Office spokesman said the launch is inconsistent with the 2015 UN Security Council resolution. However, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif reiterated Tehran's position that its missiles are not designed to carry nuclear arms. Pakistan has become the only country in South Asia to be ranked as a 4th-generation regulator by the International Telecommunication Union. According to the ITU report, Global ICT Regulatory Outlook 2020, Pakistan scored 88 out of 100. That means Pakistan's ICT regulations are in line with economic and social policy. Out of the 38 economies in Asia-Pacific, only 8% of states have managed to achieve G4 status. Pakistan is also among the top 5 regulators in the entire region with a global rank of 48. Millions of Muslims around the world have begun observing the holy month of Ramadan, but this year they are facing a different kind of Ramadan in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. Details in this report.
This year, the fasting month has arrived amid social restrictions in place due to the coronavirus pandemic. Many Muslim-majority countries, including Indonesia, Saudi Arabia and UAE, have asked their citizens to stay at home.
Salat dimanapun.
For me, no matter where we are, the prayers must go on, even though we cannot pray in the mosque. The religious heads in the country have advised us to pray in our home. As a follower, all we can do is follow the instructions and do as we are told. As for the rest, we will leave it to God.
Para ulama di negeri ini.
Saudi Arabia's King Salman said he is saddened that Muslims cannot pray at mosques because of social restrictions, but in certain countries of the world, including Pakistan, the government urged people to pray at home but did not impose a ban.
Every Muslim wants to pray during the month of Ramadan. People participate in congregations for prayers, but the situation in which we are due to COVID-19, the wish to be part of such congregations cannot be expected to vanish or end, and we must pray to God to end this pandemic for us and for humanity soon. However, until this disease persists, our religion preaches we should not only keep ourselves protected, but make sure others do not get harmed by us either. Therefore, we should focus on praying individually.
कि अपने आप को भी महफूज रखा जाए और
In Ramadan, observant Muslims refrain from eating and drinking from dawn to dusk.
Environmentalists have warned the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic must not deprioritize the war on climate change. Unfortunately, that's exactly what is happening in Indian-occupied Kashmir, where the authorities have ordered the cutting down of tens of thousands of trees in a bid to stop allergies during the viral outbreak. Does this move make any sense? Find out in this report.
New Delhi has turned occupied Kashmir into the world's biggest prison after illegally revoking Article 370. Now, the authorities in the valley have taken another controversial decision of cutting down thousands of poplar trees, fearing a convergence of respiratory allergies amid the global pandemic. Environmentalists and doctors assert that the tree's pollen and seeds do not present a respiratory threat bigger than other spring blooming plants. They warn widespread forest degradation may in fact be the bigger threat.
I am just reproducing an health expert's view that it is not causing any allergy. But it is simple, a myth now carried over the years that it causes the allergy, but it has not been proved.
Poplar wood is also used to make everything from wooden fruit crates to plywood and pencils. The breed has also been widely used to restore degraded areas.
It's a 600 crore rupees industry. We should look at from it that our food industry tomorrow must not get affected, because you have to carry the food boxes all across the country, even it's to be exported. So you have to then think an alternative for this thing once you will go for the extraction or completely from your ecosystem. So it is to be given a due thought process.
There are about 328 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 5 deaths in the valley. Due to the curfew that has been in place since August 2009, people are forced to seek treatment in makeshift facilities.
We have a lot more coming up right after this short break, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Japan is investigating a virus outbreak among the crew of a cruise ship which docked in Nagasaki in January. 150 out of 623 crew members of the Costa Atlantica have tested positive so far. Head of the regional government's health and welfare department said picture will only get clearer once they get all the samples. He said with limited sources, it is difficult to maintain and control the health of crew members. The ship had no passengers on board and was diverted to Nagasaki for repairs rather than China due to the virus outbreak. The crew were meant to have been confined to the ship, but local media reports some left the vessel. All crew have been tested as the Nagasaki Medical Association declared it a medically critical situation. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says the strains of coronavirus first entered his state from Europe and not China. He said U.S. President Donald Trump enacted travel bans too late to halt its spread. In a briefing, Cuomo said the researchers at Northeastern University estimated that over 10,000 New Yorkers may have contracted the disease. He said this figure was evaluated by the time the state had its first confirmed case on March 1st. The governor said he believes Italy is likely to be the source. Cuomo said the country acted 2 months after the China outbreak. The UK and EU have failed to bridge differences over future competition, showing no signs of progress towards a deal on post-Brexit relationship. The EU's chief negotiator Michel Barnier said UK set a tight deadline by ruling out an extension to the Brexit transition period beyond the end of 2020. In a statement, Barnier said the UK cannot impose this very short calendar for negotiations. He said at the same time, Britain is not moving or progressing on certain subjects that are important for the European Union. The International Atomic Energy Agency says radiation from fires around Ukraine's defunct Chernobyl nuclear power plant poses no risk to human health. The UN Atomic Agency said it is based its assessment on data provided by Kiev. In a statement, the IAEA said the recent fires near the plant have not led to any hazardous increase of radioactive particles in the air. The Vienna-based agency said the increase in levels of radiation was very small. It said despite minor increases, the concentration of radioactive materials in the air remains below Ukraine's radiation safety norms. Last week, the main fire among several blazes was extinguished, but smaller fires are still burning in the exclusion zone around the plant. Environmental activists say the burning of contaminated trees could disperse radioactive particles, posing a health risk. In Greece, teachers, students and parents have held a protest in the capital city of Athens despite a general lockdown in the country. Some 100 protesters gathered outside parliament, with many wearing masks and gloves. The protesters oppose an education reform bill. They say the government prepared the bill without their say amidst a lockdown. One protester said they will not remain inactive and will fight for the bill's withdrawal. The lockdown in Greece has been extended from April 27th to May 4th. The government plans a gradual easing of measures from next week, starting with courts. The motive of Canada's mass shooting has revealed, as police say the gunman began the rampage after his girlfriend escaped from his assaults. Police said the individual woman is currently recovering from her injuries and cooperating with the authorities. Police said after the woman escaped, it was a catalyst to start the chain of events. But police said they are also open to all possibilities that there was premeditated planning also involved. On Sunday, a gunman dressed as a policeman went on a 12-hour shooting rampage in the eastern province of Nova Scotia, killing 22 people. The 51-year-old suspected shooter was killed by the police and was identified as Gabriel Wortman, who worked as a denturist. Australia and New Zealand have marked the Anzac Day at driveways after the public was urged to pay tribute to military personnel amid coronavirus pandemic. The Remembrance Day is a hugely important event for both nations. People held private ceremonies in driveways and on balconies as traditional memorials were cancelled for the first time in decades due to the pandemic. The day usually has dawn services to commemorate the battle on the Gallipoli Peninsula in Turkey during World War I. In a statement, New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said people cannot join in person, but in the spirit to remember national heroes. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison urged people to honour those who served in the country's military in whatever way they can. Meanwhile, Australia has again closed beaches to the public after people failed to adhere to social distancing orders. A Russian unmanned supply ship has docked with the International Space Station. Progress 75 cargo ship arrived at the station 3 hours later to deliver supplies to the 6 crew members of Expedition 63. According to the state media, the cargo craft carried water, oxygen, fuel and dry cargo, including oranges, grapefruits and sausages. It said the Soyuz rocket was dubbed the Victory Rocket in tribute to the 75th anniversary of Russia's victory in World War II. The cargo spacecraft will remain docked with the space station for about 7 months. It is scheduled to leave the orbiting laboratory in December, at which point it will burn up in Earth's atmosphere. As Muslims around the world welcome Ramadan during the coronavirus crisis, mosques stand empty and fast-breaking feasts cancelled. In Brazil, prayer leaders known as imams have turned to social media to mark the holiest month of the Muslim calendar. This report will now tell you more.
This year, Ramadan has come amid social distancing measures, forcing Muslims to break their fast without relatives and friends. But to enjoy the month in its spirits, imams at mosques in Brazilian cities of Foz do Iguaçu and Sao Paulo have arranged online sermons. Prayer leaders have advised people to stay at home and not put their lives at risk.
Unfortunately, because of the pandemic and with religious teachings, we could not put lives at risk. We cannot put health in danger. Activities that we do collectively as a group, normally in the mosques, continue to be suspended.
coletiva, em grupo.
Ramadan usually fills these mosques with swaths of believers. This year, imams say they are trying to send out these prayers, spirituality within the homes of people.
This year we're doing these social media lives, using this tool to take spirituality to the homes of people, to live in the spirit of the month of Ramadan, so that these important prayers are part of the Ramadan month. It is so people are not left with nothing. We're trying to send out this spirituality, these prayers within the homes of people.
Então estamos tentando levar essa espiritualidade,
In Foz do Iguaçu, footages of believers revealing the smiles under their face masks are interspersed with the message, "We are together." These messages are also broadcasted on the exterior of a local mosque.
The U.S. says the new trade agreement between America, Canada and Mexico will come into effect a month later than initially proposed. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer said he has notified Congress that the new agreement will enter into force on July 1st. In a statement, Lighthizer said both Mexico and Canada have taken measures necessary to comply with the commitments under the deal. Lighthizer said the crisis from the COVID-19 pandemic shows the U.S. should increase manufacturing capacity and investment in North America. He said in that effort, the agreement's entry into force is a landmark achievement. The announcement comes after reports last month that the Trump administration was considering a June 1st start date. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.